Mariupol after a nearly 3-month siege that reduced much of the strategic port city to a smoking ruin, with over 20,000 civilians feared dead. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu reported to President Vladimir Putin that a complete liberation of the Azovstal steel plant in Mariupol, the last stronghold of Ukrainian resistance, and the city as a whole, spokesman Igor Konashenkov said Friday. There was no immediate confirmation from Ukraine. Russia's state news agency RIA Novosti quoted the ministry as saying a total of 2,439 Ukrainian fighters who had been holed up at the steelworks had surrendered since Monday, including over 500 on Friday. As they surrendered, the troops were taken prisoner by the Russians, and at least some were taken to a former penal colony. Others were said to be hospitalist. Kremlin celebrates steel mill surrender. The defense of the steel mill had been led by Ukraine's Azov regiment, whose far-right origins have been seized on by the Kremlin as part of an effort to cast its invasion as a battle against Nazi influence in Ukraine. Russia said the Azov commander was taken away from the plant in an armored vehicle. Russian authorities have threatened to investigate some of the steel mill's defenders for war crimes and put them on trial, branding them Nazis and criminals. That has stirred international fears about their fate. The steelworks, which sprawled across 11 square kilometers, had been the site of fierce fighting for weeks. The dwindling group of outgunned fighters had held out, drawing Russian airstrikes, artillery and tank fire, before their government ordered them to abandon the plant's defense and save themselves. The complete takeover of Mariupol gives Putin a badly needed victory in the war he began on February 24, a conflict that was supposed to have been a lightning conquest for the Kremlin but instead has seen the failure to take the capital of Kyiv, a pullback of forces to refocus on eastern Ukraine, and the sinking of Moskva, the flagship of Russia's Black Sea Fleet. Military analysts said Mariupol's capture at this point is of mostly symbolic importance since the city was already effectively under Moscow's control and most of the Russian forces that were tied down by the fighting there had already left. Donbass offensive continues. Yet fighting continues to rage in the Donbass, the industrial heartland in eastern Ukraine that Putin is bent on capturing. Russian forces shelled a vital highway and kept up attacks on a key city in the Luhansk region, hitting a school among other sites, Ukrainian authorities said. Luhansk is part of the Donbass. The Kremlin had sought control of Mariupol to complete a land corridor between Russia and the Crimean Peninsula, which it seized from Ukraine in 2014, and free up troops to join the larger battle for the region. The city's loss also deprives Ukraine of a vital seaport. Mariupol endured some of the worst suffering of the war and became a worldwide symbol of defiance. An estimated 100,000 people remained out of a pre-war population of 450,000, many trapped without food, water, heat, or electricity. Relentless bombardment left rows upon rows of shattered or hollowed-out buildings. A maternity hospital was hit by a lethal Russian airstrike on March 9, producing shocking images of pregnant women being evacuated from the place. A week later, about 300 people were reported killed in a bombing of a theater where civilians were taking shelter, although the real death toll could be closer to 600. Satellite images in April showed what appeared to be mass graves just outside Mariupol, where local officials accused Russia of concealing the slaughter by burying up to 9,000 civilians. Earlier this month, hundreds of civilians were evacuated from the plant during humanitarian ceasefires and spoke of the terror of ceaseless bombardment, the dank conditions underground and the fear that they wouldn't make it out alive.